All right, let's get rolling. Welcome, everyone. I'm Allison Kirchen, coaching program leader at Mentavi. Today kicks off a special two-part holiday series where we'll share tools and insights to help you stay grounded, supported, and resilient during what can be both a joyful and sometimes overwhelming time of year. While the holidays can bring celebration, connection, and reflection, they can also bring disrupted routines, added pressure, and emotional spikes. This session is designed to help you notice those stress points and learn a few mental wellness coaching strategies you can try right away. Let's meet our amazing coaching panel. First up, Valerie Snyder.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Snyder. I am a behavioral health nurse, certified health and wellness coach, and a fellow ADHDer. I know firsthand the strengths and challenges that come with this wiring, and I'm very passionate about helping other people with ADHD navigate their journey to self-understanding and lasting change.
Wonderful. Amanda Chocko.
Hello, I'm Amanda Chocko. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and sleep coach here at Mentavi. And sleep can be difficult for those with ADHD under normal circumstances, let alone during the holidays. So I'm really excited to dive in today and talk about different strategies to help navigate all of that.
Great. And we also have Karen Kipp. She's actually experiencing a few technical difficulties, so she will be here shortly, but she is another amazing coach of ours, focused on the nutrition and wellness space. She has many years of wonderful dietitian experience, is an athlete, and really knows how to work with people on their unique goals that they might have on the nutrition front. All right, let's dive right into our panel questions. As the holidays ramp up, many of us feel like we're juggling more than usual. So let's start by exploring the executive functions that help us manage stress and emotions and what happens when those systems get overloaded. So we'll cover response inhibition, thinking before reacting, emotional control, managing outbursts or spirals, and stress tolerance, navigating pressure and sensory or emotional load. Valerie, what does it look like when these functions go offline during the holidays, and what helps people stay grounded?
That's a great question. Response inhibition, emotional control, and stress tolerance are difficult for most people with ADHD every day, anyways. But when you add in the holidays, it takes it to another level, basically. So, holiday chaos with more stimulation, more pressure, more emotional triggers, that's going to make it harder for us to slow down long enough to not be completely reactive and have to probably apologize to somebody at some point before the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve. So what that looks like for most people is the first thing it looks like is reactivity. So like when you're around the punch bowl at Aunt Clara's house talking to your family or friends, then they start questioning you about your job status, your weight status, your relationship status. Sometimes we can be right in the middle of an explosive response without even realizing it. The other thing is overcommitting or having trouble saying no. So that shows up usually like agreeing to go to 3 holiday parties in the same night without checking your calendar first, or it could be saying yes to a function, event, or one of those holiday parties when you really want to say no, and then kind of feeling um, bad about yourself. You start running that negative narrative in your head, like, oh, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and gosh, now I'm committed, and you start to stress. That kind of just takes you down a whole different road where you start to stress about it before anticipatory stress before you even get there. So that kind of leads us to our next one, which is emotional control. And holidays oftentimes equal sensory overload. And when you add in more expectations and social stimulation, um, emotions tend to run high pretty quickly. So the way that looks in the context of the holidays is meltdowns over minor mishaps, like when plans change. This happens to people with ADHD anyways, but like when plans change last minute, you kind of go down this spiral, or when you accidentally burn the Christmas cookies. I mean, that just causes, emotional upheaval. And, you know, like I said, these are things that we experience at some level anyways, the other 50 weeks of the year, but during the holiday, it just seems to be that much more intense. And then, excuse me, I'm sick. The last one is stress tolerance. So ADHD brains, we use more cognitive energy anyways, but when you have to, you know, manage, we use more cognitive energy on a daily basis anyways, but when you start to add in the stress of the holidays, like our buffer just gets much smaller for stressful situations. And what that's going to show up like in during the holiday season is basically two things. It's either going to be avoidance or shutdown. So, avoiding going like to that one event you said yes to when you really meant to say no, you're going to probably stress about it up until the hour, before you're supposed to leave. And then you're just going to say, forget it. I can't deal. And the other one would be shutdown. So I know for myself, I'll have, a bunch of Christmas shopping to do, and I have to go to the store. And when parking's a mess, it's too crowded, the music's too loud, the lights are too bright, and I just kind of get into paralysis, and I'm like, I can't deal. And I turn around and leave, and everybody's getting gift cards. So that's what stress looks like during the holiday.
Highly relatable, I would say.
Mm.
So if you could pick one of those and discuss your go-to strategy for getting back on track and just regaining that sense of peace when you're in that moment that's kind of spiraling, what do you
Mhm.
do?
There's a strategy that I like to use called pause and ground. And basically, it's a breathing exercise. And what's nice about this one is specifically is that it does work for all three of those executive functions of response inhibition, emotional control, and stress tolerance. So basically, what we're trying to do is when you are in a dysregulated state, you're stressing out, you're shutting down, you're, about to be reactive, you want to get yourself back into a regulated state. So the first step to this is to pause. And that's by taking a deep breath and trying to inhale for about 4 seconds. And then you'll want to hold that breath for about 2 to 4 seconds. And then you want to exhale for a count of about 4 to 6 seconds. And basically, what we're doing is we are trying to get our nervous system back to a state of calm. We're trying to downshift that fight or flight reaction, which is when stress tolerance gets low. So by downshifting that, we're trying to raise our stress tolerance back to something more manageable and start to just feel a little more control over our emotions and our bodies. So step two of that is actually the grounding step. And this is where we're going to utilize our senses. So you're going to want to do something like feel your feet on the floor. You're going to want to put your hands over your heart and get in touch or really start to notice your breath pattern, or you're going to notice, the rhythm of your heartbeat. And just to bring your awareness back to present. That's basically what that step's for. And then the third step is reorienting. And that's where the curiosity of like, why did I get so worked up? Why am I so stressed out? Why did I react that way? And this is where you want to, get a little curious and just ask yourself, like, what can I do right now to make myself just feel 10% better? And what's difficult about this step is that we want to feel 100% better immediately right now. We're not there yet. So that's where you just figure out what's the one small thing I can do just to start to get me back back to a place that I feel more comfortable in my body and in my head, and go from there, because we're just looking for progress. We're not looking for perfection. So that's my one go-to strategy that actually helps all three of those at the same time.
I love that. Who else just tried that breathing exercise? Because I did, and that was a nice little moment of reprieve after a crazy day. So thank you for that. So we're going to shift gears into the nutrition side now. So Coach Karen or Amanda, we know food, drink, and holiday celebrations are part of the joy this time of year, but sometimes it's also the stress. So can you talk about how disrupted eating and drinking habits impact mood and ability to regulate?
Sure, I could add my 2 cents to that. So
Mhm.
there's certainly a lot of temptation during the holidays. There's parties, people are bringing treats into work. You might, tend to overindulge a little bit, maybe have an extra beverage or two. And this could all really throw everything off for you. It throws off your normal eating schedule, and it could exacerbate anxiety and stress. So I think, some of the things that you could think about doing is one is really think about starting off the day with a healthy breakfast. And this would include making sure you have protein in your breakfast, because protein is one of the most satiating macronutrients that we could eat. And it's going to keep you from getting, blood sugar crashes or cravings, or being more tempted by some of those more sugary treats that will just add to the stress of the day. So trying to think through like your first meal of the day, having some protein, whatever that looks like for you, whatever your favorite thing is, packing some healthy, really grab and go snacks like nuts or maybe string cheese, things like that, just to keep your blood sugar stable during the day, staying hydrated. And of course, it's the holidays. We're all going to indulge a little bit and not feel guilty at all about that. But just, if you set that foundation for yourself, it's going to be really helpful for you to manage that a bit better.
I love that. Thank you. And I know Karen and I were talking about this the other day, and another great tip she brought up was about water intake and trying to keep water intake consistent as possible, because sometimes we'll confuse thirst and hunger cues. And so, sometimes maybe there's another tip there. If you feel like you're hungry or snacky, maybe a quick check of, did I drink enough water today? And try to get a glass down, before you try another snack. So there's another
Absolutely.
tip.
Very true. Very true.
Wonderful. Thanks for jumping in. So we'll shift to sleep now, Coach Amanda. We know sleep also takes a hit this time of year. Can you share how disrupted sleep affects executive functioning and stress?
Sure. So all of the reasons that we talked about already, as far as you know, more stimulation, more demands, less structure, our schedules get thrown off, our eating habits get thrown off, and everything gets a little crazy. And if we're racing through the day with our adrenaline and cortisol going through our body, it's going to be really hard for us to wind down at night and get a good night's sleep. And
Mhm.
when we don't get a good night's sleep, our executive function really takes a hit. We're going to be more reactive, more moody, less focused, less organized, and it's just harder. It's really important that we prioritize our sleep during this time. And, even if your schedule is thrown a little bit off because you do go to that happy hour, that evening party, or whatever fun thing you're doing, just it doesn't take much. You don't have to have a huge wind down routine. Even just taking 10 minutes to chill out and just calm down, calm your nervous system down, and help your mind prepare for rest in bed. So, dimming the lights in the house, maybe lighting a candle, make sure you blow it out before you go to sleep. I'm finding some type of a wind down activity that you like. You know, Valerie talked about breath work. That's going to be really helpful to bring down your nervous system, maybe some stretching, taking a warm bath, maybe some Epsom salts, knitting, coloring. Just, find the one thing that's going to help you wind down and get into bed.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite tip that works well for you when you're kind of in that spirally moment and overly stimulated from a busy day?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that we already talked about. I
Mhm.
also like journaling and
Mm.
just doing brain dumps at night and getting a lot of the things that are either on my mind or all my to-dos that I'm stressing out about, particularly when anything that's added on during the holidays, that you're just getting that all out of your head and really saying, I'm not going to even think about this tonight. I'm going to deal with it tomorrow. I'm just going to set some time, put some things on my calendar. Um, designated worry time when you're really just like, okay, I'm going to tackle this problem then and see if it's something that I really need to focus on or not. Could I put it on the side for now? So that's a thing that I like to do.
Great. Thank you. So we dove into specific areas, but we are human, which means we are a system. So let's also address what happens when it's just not going well in general, because we know holidays can feel magical one moment, totally overwhelming the next, whether it's hard family interaction, disrupted sleep, like we just spoke about, or simply the weight of juggling so many responsibilities. Those emotional hits can short circuit our executive function. Suddenly we're forgetting things, snapping at people, feeling like we failed. And we love to say this is really where coaching shines because it's not just about performance or planning, it's about real life, reset, recovery, and providing those little steps to kind of get you back on track. So let's come back to our coaches. When someone comes in feeling overwhelmed, a little ashamed, or just stuck, especially this time of year, what are one or two ways that coaching can help them flip that switch and find some peace, kind of just reset things?
I think one of the important things to keep in mind, especially during this time of year, is that it it is overwhelming, like the
Mhm.
holidays are overwhelming. So we just have some executive function challenges anyways in these specific areas. Not everybody has the same challenges. Some people are better with response inhibition, emotional control, and stress tolerance. Others of us, me, still
Mhm.
have some significant challenges with those every day. So, just realizing that, this is added stress on top of it, and you're not failing, you're not backsliding. This is a time of year that really does take, um, first of all, some awareness of that, because I think people with ADHD, we tend to think that, these other outside influences like the holidays, like that they don't necessarily impact us. We're just not reacting. Oh, we're not reacting well, as
Mhm.
than more well than normal. I don't know if that's the right way to put it,
Yeah.
but yeah, like this is really a stressful time of year, and to really give yourself some grace. I think that in my personal ADHD journey, like I feel like things started to really fall into place once I was okay with that, understanding how I'm going to react, understanding what my I can't think of the right word right now, ADHD in effect right now. Um, so, what my triggers are, like what my triggers are anyways. And then when you add, all this other, stress on top of it, that, the reactions are going to be a little bit bigger. The loss of emotional control is going to be a little more distinct. The stress tolerance is going to go way down. And knowing that I can um, rebound basically, like I can wake up every day and work just a little bit harder at it or be a little more conscious of it.
Mhm.
I think that's what's important. And that's where I think the beauty of coaching is somebody to kind of point these things out to you, because you don't often realize, that you just think that you're managing things worse than you were 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. That was great. Amanda, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so just as we were saying before, we tend to overcommit during the holidays, and it could just be, just too much. And it's okay to say no and really think through, like, what are the important things that I should focus on? What could I say no to? How could I simplify? And working with a coach, and I'm working with my clients, we really try to narrow that down and think of strategies that aren't so overwhelming, that are really doable, and having a sounding board that you could just, we talked about journaling and getting things out of your head, just being able to talk to somebody about all of the different things that are stressing you out. When it comes to sleep, stress is a huge factor, and routines, getting into, whatever we do from the minute we wake up in the morning, can impact our sleep. So really looking at all of those aspects and doing, like, really what works for you. What is going to be doable, understanding what your triggers are, what your limitations are, where you might get stuck or find challenges, and then having that support and accountability and troubleshooting when you're meeting with a coach on a regular basis can really be helpful to set those habits and priorities in stone.
Thank you. And just from our internal dialogues, I always think about when you talk about, but well, all of our coaches talk about pause is progress. I think it's really easy for people to forget that. And even just in your day to day, you had it all planned out until you didn't, and until something came in and spoiled the plan. And so that pause can be very powerful, and is tied to a lot of your tips and tricks that you both have discussed today. And sometimes pausing feels like it's a negative, but I love that you remind people that it's not. It's a great positive, and it gives you that moment to maybe do one of the short breathing exercises and then, change direction. You just pivot a little bit. Thank you again for being here. And, as we head into Thanksgiving and the holiday season, remember, resilience does not mean perfection. It just means making small, supportive choices that protect your energy, your focus, and your peace. So we hope today's tips give you a few ways to recharge, refuel, and stay grounded through the holidays. And we do have a part 2 of our holiday series coming up in December, where we'll go deeper into emotional regulation, navigating family dynamics, and closing out the year with clarity and calmness. So until then, take care and be kind to your mind.